Good morning. This is Malcolm, and I am going to keep playing that Factorio game that I started. I think I've had 4 episodes so far, and I can't really remember where we're at, but um, I'll figure it out in just a minute. All right, let me make sure I got my windows lined up so I can see if anyone joins me. All right, and I want to get Twitch 4. All right, so as a review, I have a bunch of what they're called quality of life mods. And quality of life mods um, are essentially not very game changing, and mostly in this case to do with lighting, so that you can see what my character is doing when it is work. Uh, where are we at? We have finished some research. Good. Um, Looking at the map, we've placed some radar. Um, we've got green circuits factory being supplied by, it looks like, a just fine copper smelting facility, but an overtaxed facility. And it looks like we're using the iron and the circuits to make basic assembly or basic conveyor, underground conveyor, conveyor splitter, um, inserters, assemblers, and miners. Miners. Okay, and then we also have a fairly stout power production situation where we're using about 1/6 of the total production ability. So that's actually not bad. I have a kind of a sprawling private game that I'm playing where I ran out of power and made so much pollution that the aliens came for me, and it's been a little interesting over in the other. Anyway, I don't remember what I said I was going to do next. So that's a little concerning. Also, I'm wondering, I'm hoping you can actually see what I'm doing here. So I'm going to check my channel, and yep, it says I am streaming and you can hear me. So that's good. Okay. Um, Got a map. So I'm in the middle of the power plant, which is fine. I guess I must have recently upgraded the power plant. I'm not sure. But where I'm at suggests that I should either set up some more mining of iron and smelting of iron, uh, or I think set up more radar to figure out where I am in the world and figure out where the hostile native life is. Um, I think I'll finish. It looks like I need to place 2 more radars to sort of square off around the base, and then I might consider doing another layer out. Um, but actually, it's probably more prudent to. It's probably more prudent to harvest more iron ore and to refine it. Looks like my coal is fine. I have coal over there going to power. I've got coal over here going to smelting, and it looks like it's holding up. I'm actually gonna set up some miners. How many do I have already manufactured? quite a few. All right, so I'll take more than half. And I think I already said this, but with beginning technology, you can't really filter out undesired things. Like if you look at the expected resources in the panel on the right, underneath the picture of the miner, you can see right now it says 53K iron ore. But if I move it to the right twice, now it's showing iron ore and copper ore. And I only want iron for this assembly process. So I'm going to avoid that situation. Place my electric drill here where it will only get iron. And then the way I tile it is I give two spaces between each time I sort of double check to make sure I'm not getting anything in there. And then I make them face each other. In between, I will run a conveyor belt and they will automatically. Okay, and then there's this power is in the way. I need to replace it as soon as I've put down the drill because it's probably connected to. Okay, and then I put down a drilling machine, so I want to put power next to each one. A little bit more. It's not quite as efficient. It'll do for now. And I think um, yeah, since we have cliffs in the southeast, I'm actually gonna go west belt here and then try to route things so that I don't completely coal patch next but more resources lying around and having to route around them than it is to have no resources and have to run around. It's worth it. Also, I know that I was having sound recording quality problems, and to fix that, I got a la lavalier microphone, so it's clipped to my half of my shirt, the collar of my shirt, and it's wired. So I hope that this will solve the sound of my lovely dulcet voice. I hope it'll keep my dulcet voice recording and not drop out like the headset I was using before was. So I tend to have a lot more, and I know this is because I'm an old, but I tend to have a lot more faith in wired devices and wireless devices with respect to things like to record my voice and not having it drop out. And so I do use Bluetooth for sure. Like for cases where I'm concerned about the quality of the recording, I think it's much better for me to use product wired over a wireless. So that's building up, and this is what's called. I don't know if I've used this much in this. There are basic approaches um, to playing this particular game. People have extensively worked on designing ways to, for example, add the contents of one conveyor belt to another in a balanced way. And so this is kind of a pattern that lots and lots of people use to add in a balanced way the contents of one conveyor belt to another and keep the balance in the one you're adding to. Um, there's another pattern I'm going to show you here because there's a situation here where this belt is unbalanced. And I think I talked about this before, but let me treat it again. So each conveyor belt in Factorio has two different sides, and for the greatest throughput, you want to use both sides with the same supply. But for things like efficiency, like up here where you're trying to feed both copper ore and coal to the machines, and you don't want to have to use like different inserters, just the normal simple basic inserter with one block reach, then you need to put both supplies on the same conveyor belt. So if you point in the direction of the conveyor belt, the left side of this conveyor belt is full, and the right side of this conveyor belt is over here on the output. We're actually trying to carry copper ore on both sides, and this unbalanced situation can cause inefficiencies further down the assembly line. So what we want to do here is actually balance this belt, and there is another common design for that. And I think some people call it a balancer. I don't know. I guess usually I just do it. So this is like the most compact, most efficient way of balancing uh, an out of balance conveyor belt. And this can happen in situations like where, I don't know if I have that here, but sometimes if you have like a supply line on the south side of smelters or assembly machine, and then the result on, here's actually an example, the result on another line. So here I did it because I need to get the gears to the third assembly machine. So I put them on this belt, and then they come over to this assembly machine, and they're skipping the middle one because the middle one doesn't need those gears. It can get gears directly to the machine. But if you look carefully at this assembly belt, you can see that only one side is being used. And that's pretty much okay for a really short transport situation. But if you're talking about long distances, it's a good idea to balance the line so that it's more efficiently used, essentially. That can increase throughput rate and increase the efficiency of your factory. So if this were a longer transport situation, I would probably balance it like I did down below with the copper. Um, there'll be a lot more of this as we actually develop the bus I was talking about at the beginning. The bus is a way of assembling all of your raw materials so that it's easy to create um, derivative products. Um, if the bus gets sort of spotty like this, you just add more resources to the bus as you grow the factory to the west or the east or the north or the south, depending on which direction. And a bus is just, it's actually it's a computer term, and well, that's where I encountered it. I'm not sure where it originally, but a bus is essentially a collection of wires that are transmitting different um, data from different sources to a central source, or transporting data uh, from one location in the computer to another. and they usually just are this array of parallel wires. You could certainly do it in a bundle of wires, but if you sort of flatten it out, it would be an array of parallel wires. So in Factorio, if you do a bus design for your main factory, what you do is you group conveyor belts in groups of four with two spaces between each group of four, and you just run that and you have lots of belts, lots of full conveyor belts full of material, or mostly raw material like iron plates, zinc plates, green circuits, and so on. When you upgrade your conveyor belts to make them faster and your inserters to make them faster, the most upgraded systems can take this huge amounts of raw resources or processed resources, all the belts. But it can be fun, and once you have a bus assembled, it can be very simple, very easy, or relatively simple to route those resources through your factory. Whereas here, it's not bad now, but it'll get bad. Um, this is more called a spaghetti factory because there are lines going east and west and north and south. Um, this is these two lines, the copper and the iron, are somewhat bussy, but there's only two of them, and the iron's not well filled because all the assembly machines are using it. Right? So my goal is to down here mine more iron ore and then process it with more smelters, probably around here, and then put the output added back onto this line before it starts being used by the green circuit factory and all the downstream assemblers. Because this is such a sort of spotty, stringy mess right now. So, but for the bus, when I get there, there'll be a lot more of that. It's sort of assembly line-ish, I guess. I mean, it's all about assembly lines in Factorio, but I think the idea of conceiving of their resources as part of the assembly line in the bus architecture is pretty cool. I've always found it quite powerful. But takes a while to get there because you have to develop your infrastructure, you have to research new technologies, and so on to make it all work. All right, this is, to my very great surprise, it is still pure iron. I thought I was going to catch some stones in this mine, and I probably will with the southern one, but the northern drills should be fine. And I don't even know if there's anything to mine here, but I'll just make the effort. Yeah. So red means there's no resources to actually mine. Okay, so facing this one is iron and rock. No, this one is just iron. Okay. I think that's about it for this patch. So I will run another one. I think actually run this a little bit. Also influenced by the bus philosophy, even in my early base spaghetti phase, I'm going to, and this is not always going to work, but I'm going to try to keep a space of two spaces between different runs of conveyor belt so that if I need to, this is primarily so that if I need to, I can use underground belt, like for instance. And the game is also interesting in that if you just like go, it will place underground belts for you. So with 2 or 3 spaces in between lines, there is enough space for the underground conveyor belt. If there's only one space, there's not enough space. Um, there's no place for the line to turn around or go anywhere. You can potentially hope that the underground line will span that far, but the beginning underground line is actually not very good at distance. It only goes this far, which is enough for uh, belt, 2 spaces, and a belt, but no more. So if you had 3 belts, you would be out of luck if you only had one space between them. That's the kind of thing you have to consider while you're building the base. Um, yeah, let's actually, well, transition a little bit. Interesting. We'll transition the main line to this one that's the most southerly. So we'll add the output of the stuff above to this one. Also, I'm missing power. I need to fix that too. You can see the yellow blinkies. That means you're running out of, or you don't have power assigned to those machines. Oop, I've got the wrong direction. I got the wrong direction again. There we go. Okay. Um, electric poles. And sometimes I try to throw other connections in, primarily because if the hostile native life form gets in and starts attacking my base, they can destroy small parts of machines that are hard to see, like the power poles are hard to see in against the iron ore field. So in that case, an alien, or sorry, a creature could destroy one of these power poles, and it might take me a while to figure out. If I have redundancy, then I may never have to figure it out, or I may only have to figure it out much later in the game. Um, I believe this pole is, yeah, that's just going to the power, and I don't want to mess with it because I've found out the hard way that messing with um, the fuel source for the power station, like splitting it off and using it for other things, can put you in serious trouble later on. That said, I do have enough um, right now to do a dedicated coal for this smelting factory, so I think I will. And then I have enough real estate, enough working area to do it. That's what I mean. And this is totally overkill. There's no need to go this far, but I'm going to do it just because it's better to over-engineer than under-engineer in this game. A little crowded, and I could potentially switch things up so that the grid was more synced. Like this grid here is different from the grid that I'm using for the power, but it doesn't really matter, so I'm not going to worry about it. It is a little. Oops, I've run out of conveyor belt. It is a little tedious to do this, and there's actually a mod that I am playing around with on a single player game um, that gives you early access to a technology that changes the game a lot with respect to like what you experience as you play it. And the technology is you can research it, and I always research it as soon as I can because I actually prefer that mode of play. Um, but the mod that I'm playing around with on that early game is called Early Start, and it gives you access to construction robots and blueprints. And construction robots are these flying drones that will take stuff out of your inventory and um, build machines from your inventory to the specifications of blueprint, where you just copy, you sort of make a stamp out of a design that you've already created, and then you can stamp that stamp wherever you want to build it again, and the robots will fly out and make that happen with the stuff that you're carrying in your inventory. And it's very convenient, especially after you've spent dozens of hours manually building stuff with Factorio. You just be able to take a copy of the design that you've scrolled away and tell your robots to build it instead of having to build it yourself. I hope to be able to get to the point where I can show that to you, but it's actually pretty far into the game, so I'm not sure. I mean, it'll be a while. Let's just say it'll be a while. Okay, and then I think I'm just going to add this to it. It's a little irresponsible, but irresponsibility is my middle name. Well, it isn't, but nobody believes me when I say that danger is my middle name. It's probably because it isn't my middle name, but I think it's funny, so I say it. However, I think they can tell that I'm joking. All right, because I've done such an asymmetrical job here, I am going to balance this. It sort of doesn't matter. In fact, it's probably a waste of valuable resources to be perfect. Um, but I like to think things keep things balanced as I can. The reason it's probably a waste of resources is that I am ultimately going to put the coal and the iron on the same shared conveyor belt. So it doesn't really matter that I've got an incredible bias to the left side. I'm saying left because I'm imagining if I'm pointing in the direction of the conveyor belt, the coal is on the left side. Um, because because I'm combining two belts into one, and I'm adding the contents of the one on the left side and the contents of the other on the right side, it doesn't really matter that the belt is out of balance unless I'm worried about um, long run transport balancing issues. And I'm not, because it's very short run to get to where I combine them. But I do it anyway because it sort of keeps me in practice, and I guess it doesn't really matter. It costs me like a splitter and what, 6 belts? Yeah, 6 belts. So it's not terrible, and I feel like it's probably better to encourage myself to maintain good practices now early in the game, rather than just getting lazy and not caring. And there's the combination. So you can't really see it, but let's see if we zoom in real tight. Basically, here at the merging, the game is peeling off, I think, if I remember correctly, it's peeling off resources coming in. Again, if we think of ourselves following the direction of this conveyor belt, it is actually heading east. So if we think of ourselves as facing east, it's peeling coal off the right side of the conveyor, the southerly side of it on this turn, before it's peeling stuff off the right side. Sorry, the left side or the northerly side. So it doesn't really matter if this belt is out of balance because it's still peeling both off and onto this one side. So that's why it doesn't really matter. But like I said, I'm going to try to practice good factory design um, practices to encourage myself to remember. And then the other thing I'm doing is I'm doing this sort of weird design to try to balance, and it doesn't quite do it totally well, but it's pretty good. I'm trying to balance the one belt splitting into three belts, and I'm trying to keep it relatively equal between the three belts because I want to do smelting in three stations to try to increase the efficiency. Right. So I think there's some more trees. All right, and I'm getting close to these cliffs, but I'm pretty sure there will be enough space. We'll see. Um, I need more smelters. I want 30, and I can only make 6. So let's go to the stone ore, which is still the primitive burner drill, but it's enough for now. All right, that should be enough. I think I need more inserters. I'll get those. I don't think I need more belts. I don't think I need anything else. Excuse me. Okay, so because I'm taking stuff, it means that this assembly machine is working harder because it's rebuilding its stock to put into this chest. Whereas you can see activity going on, this one's still filling, they're all still filling. But at the time when I took them from this chest, this part of the assembly factory was still because that's what the assemblers weren't doing. Okay, and then I'm going to give it my 2, but then I know there's other stuff going on. Um, and then we just enough space. And it doesn't really matter where I put the inserters. I like to do it consistently, so I always where I want to put the holes to make sure that the inserters have more. But you don't, you're not, so you have to be fairly detail oriented to play this. I think if you're not super detail oriented, you could potentially mess around with this, use more inserters than you needed to, sort of click and drag around and be quick rather than so moralize about that. Um, I just like to play it this way. And even though it's all powered up in here, it's not actually attached to anything. Still failed to attach it. So you can see just like the other smelting run, this too is getting filled up. The smelters are actually smelting more and producing iron plate. I'm going to do two more, one on either side. One, two, three, four. One, two, three, four. Inserters. Okay. Um, and I'm just going to connect this. And then make the next one. One, two, three, four. One, two, three, four. Excuse me. One, two, three, four. One, two, three, four. Okay. Then I said I was going to add it. Okay, so now I need to figure out my route. So my target is here. So it seems like a good route would be through here. Let's do that. Have I? Doesn't matter. Do that. I was hoping for one more up. I don't care that much. But I think it was this one. All right. So there's this thing is in the way, but it's not that far. So again, and you can see that it's already done the underground belt. I can't. Well, I'm going to reroute this belt just one north so that there's room to do an adder. Um, Normally it would just be two on this side to make the adder, but I need to come up out of the underground belt. So it's actually going to be three. So I want to move this one up. So I'll just do that quickly. It doesn't really matter stuff working, so it's not particularly gruesome if there's a problem. Now it's all on one side. This, and then I can also probably do a balancer after I do that. So there's the underground belt. Here's the adder situation. And all right. So the adder is working, and then I can also build another balancer right here, which I will for the sake of completeness. I don't think we really need it. Okay, so you can see it's a lot less spotty here now. And if you want to make absolutely sure, you probably want to run it for, I don't know, 20 or 30 seconds at least to see how the flow stabilizes. So you can see it's actually solid now. I mean, it's moving, right? Because things are being used up, but it's solid now. This line, and it's not quite, it's thinking about backing up. There's not quite enough throughput to back up here. It's thinking about it. And the reason is because, oh, it's really close, is that I'm adding the output of three smelting groups to four up here. So I've almost doubled the smelting group. Um, and now, even with the drain of iron on the main line from the green circuits factory, it's still looking pretty good. It's not perfect. You can see after a couple of splits here, it's a little thready even on the left side, but it's not bad. There's at least stuff getting through even to the electric drill. That's good, and I could keep doing that. Although I might try adding it to the line further down, like skipping the well-supplied assembly machines and adding it maybe here. Um, before it gets split out, or even potentially adding it to just to the side with the iron plate here, right? Because there's a fair amount of supply south, and it's not really worth messing around with, but it might be worth it to mess around here and add more steel so that these downstream assemblers get more iron. Steel is a different resource, and I keep saying this, and I'm not sure why. Um, but steel is a different resource. Iron or iron plate, and then if you smelt iron plate after you've researched steel, and you can get steel. That's a minor spoiler, in fact, I think. No, I don't have it researched yet. But you can look and see what's ahead. And oddly disconcerting, isn't it? Oh, my steel is so far away. I think I must be missing it. These icons are very small. Oh, here's stuff. All right. Yeah. So steel. Um, it says you take 5 iron plate in 16 seconds. Stone furnaces, steel furnaces, and electric furnaces to make steel. So start researching that. And steel allows stronger machines and bigger tests. Right, so I've added stuff to the line. I've added more iron, and I can see downstream effect. So I have 3 radar, so I'm actually going to do that next. And I think I showed you if I click and drag the radar with me, I can tell what the alignment should be on the mini map as the sort of somewhat darker blue overlay moves around over the lighter blue, which is where I already have radar. So if I just go east, you can see that darker blue move with me. And I think I'm actually going to run into the coast before I get an ideal placement, but it's okay because it's important to get more radar machines out there from the point of view of coverage and quick analysis of landscapes. So I'm going to stick that there so that it matches up with the upper uh, boundary of what I've got covered by radar. And when I provide power, it will expand. Right now, it's not actually working. So to provide power, I put a pole next to it so that the poles and so if I hold down left click, it automatically places them at optimal distance. And you can see it's not full coverage, it's contiguous, but the optimal distance for cable between wooden electric poles is 2 beyond the boundary. There you can see now that the lighter part of the map is fully illuminated and connects with what I already have. So I'm just going to go west from that one that's placed here. and I'm going to run into a cliff. Gonna go run into another cliff. And I want to go a little bit, probably going to be right in the middle of that, right in the middle of the stone. Because if you look on the mini map, you can see that I'm in the middle of a sort of darker blue ring, well, a square ring, around a lighter blue. And the lighter blue is my natural radar, essentially my line of sight. And then the darker blue is the extra sort of chunk of range that radar has. So if I place this here, then again, once I give it power, it will have good coverage and connect fully to what I've already got covered with radar. Also want to actively avoid making a swastika symbol, so I'm actually just going to go east with the um, power poles instead of going south. Um, that is a personal preference and also further social justice. Okay, and so into a cliff. So I'm gonna sort of personally place this stuff until cliffs are no longer an issue. Right, and so I've provided power, so you can see now I've hooked up to the rest of the map. Everything in this contiguous area is covered by radar. What that does is, as a reminder, it means that I can zoom all the way in the map mode to see details. So the light colored stuff is covered by radar, whereas if I go into the dark colored side, you can see when I zoom all the way in, it's pixelized and I can't interact in any way in the map view. I can look at the tree when it's covered with radar. I cannot look at the tree when it's not. So that's what that does. Um, the other thing that's happening is if you look in the map view, you can see these sort of light spots showing up and then fading. And those light spots are being generated by the radar over here now. They are new chunks of the map that are imaged by radar. And so each radar machine makes this process a little faster for squares that they have mutually covered. So you can actually see it happening in real time, albeit very slowly. If you only have one radar machine, it crawls. With two sort of right next to each other, a little faster. And so the extent of each one of the machines. Like this one is probably not going to be scanned. This or this radar is probably going to be scanned. This. Uh, so the outer map will reflect the sort of the inner lightened. So the ones that I have placed, like this one here, is going to explore out to the east, and we may see some native life in the form of red dots. Um, Speaking of native life, it's probably time to consider making defenses, machine guns to start, and stone walls. So that's probably the next project. Um, for that, the primary thing that we need to do is start mining stone in earnest. That's for the walls. And then we actually have, I think, what we need basic resource wise to make guns and bullets, automated turrets. Um, but it will take a lot of iron to make the bullet. So I guess we may as well start working on that now. Um, oh, I can't make them yet. It's part of research. So let's actually switch gears and research the turret. Um, where's my lab? My lab is where's my lab? So I need to make the research myself. But the other thing that I should do is probably automate making the research. So, arming up, building walls, making research packs, eventually researching military technologies, all that and more, um, in the next streaming episode of Factorio by Malcolm. Um, Factorio is one of the many games that I'm happy to play um, for streaming purposes, to share how games work and what games I like and how I think about them when I play them and what my priorities are and how I interpret how the rules work and the engine works and so on. I'm happy to talk about stuff if you want to join me to chat while I'm actually streaming. I'm happy to answer comments on YouTube where I upload these videos. I'd love to have more interaction, um, more followers. Um, please, if you have any interest at all, um, consider following me on Twitch and consider subscribing and liking um, my YouTube channel and my videos on YouTube. Um, I'm a Gen X gamer. I make social justice commentary. I'm an activist. I um, I think we need to have more activists rather than fewer. Um, I have a lot of intersectional life experience, um, and I belong to many different marginalized groups, all of whom I advocate for whenever I have the opportunity. So you'll get that kind of content as well occasionally as I play games, mostly um, because a lot of games, not Factorio, but a lot of other games are designed by people who have unexamined privilege, political agendas, which I don't agree with. Um, and I say so. And if you want to support that, I would love to have you as a follower, a subscriber, to have you like and comment on my videos, to start conversations and have conversations. Um, so I hope that you have a good week. I hope that this watching this video helps you find whatever peace or happiness you like. Um, I hope that you ask me if you have questions. Um, Let me know what the sound quality is like. I think it's improved. I hope you find it is as well. Um, I can't think of much else, but it's been a pleasure. As always, I enjoy playing games. I enjoy talking about them and talking about my thinking process when I play them, and sharing what knowledge and experience I have, or discovering new games that are new to me, or games that are just released, or whatever. Um, all of that is super fun, and I'm always happy to share it. So I hope you'll join me next time. Take good care of yourself.